Hi guys, this is Tablet-News.com and I'm here with the Samsung Galaxy Tab A tablet. It's a 9.7-inch device that comes in the LTE version here. This product was announced back in March and we're dealing with the SMT555 version, the one with HSPA connectivity, phone calling, 3G and LTE on board as well. This is also a premiere. It's the first Samsung tablet with a 4:3 aspect ratio for the screen. The price tag, as far as I know, is $381 on the European market for the LTE version, while the Wi-Fi version can be bought in USA for about $300. It's a mid-range device, and now I want to discuss the design. So we're dealing here with a tablet that measures 7.5 millimeters in thickness and weighs 456 grams. In case you're wondering, it's the same thickness as the one of the iPad Air 1, and also it's about 20 grams lighter than the iPad Air 1, which is a big advantage. Other things we're mentioning here is that we got big bezels, as you can see, which is not a problem for a mid-range device. It's a comfy device with good grip, and it has a good format for games, because you can grab these edges here and hold the tablet like this while you're watching videos or playing games. It has a pretty glossy front side, however it's not very reflective, so that's good. The front side is also a bit of a fingerprint magnet, so if you put your hands on it for a while, it becomes a fingerprint magnet. And there's a plastic case here that feels pretty solid. It has a nice feel. It's not soft touch, but it's still a pretty nice feel. It feels pretty much like a mid-range laptop would, which is a good thing. We got rounded edges, as you can see right here, and rounded corners, and the product comes in black or white. At the front, we got the front camera here, the logo, some sensors in this area. We also have the physical home button here, the capacitive recents button, and the capacitive back button. At the back, we find the main camera with the typical Samsung design, and we also find these special clickers, one here and one here, used to attach some accessories to the Galaxy Tab A. At the top, there's absolutely nothing, while at the bottom we have these dual speakers, the audio jack and micro USB port. On the left side, once again, nothing, and on the right side we can find the microphone, from what I can see, on-off button and volume buttons, all of them with good feedback, and the micro SD card slot, as well as the micro SIM slot here. Overall, I would say this tablet has an okay design for a mid-ranger. It's comfy, it doesn't feel very heavy for a 9.7-incher, and during the long gameplay session or movies, you'll have a blast using it, so no problem with the design for a mid-ranger. Now, as far as the hardware is concerned, this model brings an LCD screen, a 9.7-incher, and on the box it's written LCD, while on Samsung.com it's written PLS TFT for this model, and the resolution is 1024/768 pixels. The specs of this model also include a quad-core 1.2 GHz Snapdragon 410 processor. It has a Cortex A53 core, or better said, Cortex A53 cores, and it's a 64-bit processor. The GPU, well, it's an Adreno 306 at 400 MHz. We also have 16 GB of storage, of which 11 are free, and there's a micro SD card slot here that offers you up to 128 GB extra. The RAM capacity here is 2 GB, and it's of the Alpi DDR3 kind. The cameras, well, we got a 2 megapixel front shooter and a 5 megapixel back shooter, and I should probably also mention the connectivity. We're totally covered here with GPS, GLONASS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.1, GSM, LTE category 4, which means download speeds of up to 150 Mbps, HSPA Plus, which means download speeds of up to 42 Mbps, and we also have Wi-Fi Direct. There is also micro USB 2.0, and the sensors included here are accelerometer, Hall sensor, and RGB sensor. Finally, we have reached the area of the battery. And here we are dealing with a lithium-ion unit with a capacity of 6000 mAh. On paper, this battery should provide you with 178 hours of music, 14 hours of video playback, or 15 hours of web browsing. Okay, so in our test, let's see what happened. Our test involves HD video playback in a loop with Wi-Fi on and brightness at 200 lux. And in this test we achieved a hugely impressive 13 hours and 9 minutes on battery in a continuous HD video playback in a loop. We're just only a bit below the Galaxy Tab S 8.4, which we tested last year. That one scores 13 hours and 32 minutes. We also beat the iPad Air 2 that scores 11 hours and 13 minutes. So I would say we're doing quite fine. You can actually watch 6.5 movies while using the entire capacity of the battery. We also did a PC Mark test. PC Mark simulates actual usage with stuff like photo editing, browsing and such. And in this test we achieved 10 hours and 13 minutes. The test was performed with the brightness at 200 lux, so once again we're doing very fine. Still, we're below the Champion, a model tested by our sister site GSM.com. Is the AllView P6 Energy. It's a Romanian phone from the brand AllView. That one scores 11 hours and 24 minutes, but for a tablet 10 hours is great. Meanwhile, the Galaxy Tab S 10.1 scores 5 hours in the same test, so that's a huge improvement. Overall, a great battery, I have to highlight that, for a mid-ranger, and the charging takes 4 hours, which is long, but it's well worth it, as you just saw. So I shouldn't complain about the charging, because the iPad Air 1 and iPad Air 2 also charge at about between 3 and 4 hours. Now let's go to the settings area and see the power saving features. We got the power saving mode here. You can activate it like this or at a certain percentage. You can save power by limiting CPU performance, reducing screen brightness or frame rate, and deactivating vibration feedback. And then there's also the ultra power saving mode with this grayscale mode, restriction to the application access, and also you'll be able to get about 2.5 days of usage with 50%, or in this case almost 5 days with 99% battery. As you can see, the interface has been made pretty much grayscale in spite of the icons that are still colorful, and you only have access to the basic features. So as if the battery wasn't great enough, there are also power saving features. Now let's discuss the acoustics. We got dual speakers here at the bottom in portrait, at the side in landscape. And let's see the player. It's a standard Samsung affair with this greenish hue, organization in playlist, tracks, album, artists and genres, folders and composers. And in the more section you can find the settings that include the sound alive option, which is basically your customization of the experience. We got the equalizer, which can be set to normal, auto, pop, classic, jazz, rock or custom. There's also the details area with these 7 channels with sliders. We got 3D, bass, clarity and concert hall, as well as these options. We got adapt sound that tweaks the sound to your liking. We also have Sound Alive Plus to recreate the effect of a rich surround sound, and Tube Amp to simulate the soft timbre of a tube amplifier, only works with headphones. Other than that, let's see what else we got here. We got these 2 circular mechanisms for the bass or treble, depends on what you want more from the songs, instrument and vocal, and that's pretty much it as far as sound customization goes. There's play speed, music auto off and smart volume that equalizes all tracks to an equal level. Once again, we got a minimalistic user interface here, and now let's actually listen to some tunes, starting with this one. Okay, so you get the idea. We also played with the sliders and equalizer options. So I have to say that the sound feels pretty crisp, clear, loud. We got a good bass. However, I feel a lack of amplitude slightly and the lack of a natural sound, that crystal sound that usually accompanies premium devices. Remember that it's crisp, clear, loud and the bass is good, but there's that little extra something that makes the sound really pop. And that little extra something can be triggered from the settings area. If you ask me, you go here and you should be able to press Sound Alive Plus and you'll create some rich surround, which basically triggers what I mentioned before. We also did some tests, and tests were performed using a decibel meter, and let's see what came out. This is the decibel meter. We achieved a pretty good value of 87.6 decibels. We beat the Samsung Galaxy Tab S 8.4 that achieves 84.5 decibels. We beat the iPad Air 2 that scores 86.3 decibels. This device is loud but could be just a smidge clearer, especially if you don't activate that option I mentioned before. And now I want to talk about the display. You can see it's pretty crisp and it totally does not look like a screen that has a low resolution of 1024/768 pixels. It's a 9.7 inch screen. It's a PLS TFT/LCD, depending on who you ask. It has 16 million colors, a 4:3 aspect ratio. It's glossy but it handles light okay. And the video app offered here is typical for Samsung, minimalistic, and it has few options. Let's use the standard clip. Okay, so here we go. You can change the crop if you want to. You can also activate the pop-up play option that works reasonably well on a mid-range device. There's no lag, which is good. Other options, well, delete, share, listen, subtitles and details, so that's pretty much it. As far as the actual experience goes, well, first of all, you can pinch to zoom into the video, and we're dealing here with a reasonably crisp screen, pretty bright. The colors feel a bit too vivid, a bit oversaturated and unrealistic, but the viewing angles are pretty good. I would say very good. No matter what angle you use to look at the image, you'll still be able to see what's happening on the screen. So crisp screen, especially for low resolution, bright and too vivid colors. The pixels are of the RGB stripe kind, and this device actually feels like it has a higher resolution than it is, thanks to the very bright aspect and vivid colors. We also did some tests, and you should be able to see the pixels here. Let's check them out. These are the pixels of the screen under the microscope. You can see we got this bright stripe of white. Anyway, RGB striped pixel. I have to say that the brightness is also very high, 402 lux. We're very close to the Samsung Galaxy Tab S 8.4 that we tested last year. That one had 432 lux. And the iPad Air 2 had 354 lux, while we have 402, so we beat the iPad Air 2. We also beat the Xiaomi Mi Pad that has 310 lux, so that's good brightness if you ask me. If this wasn't enough, you can also tweak the experience by going to the display area in the settings, playing with the brightness, font options, and then we got screen timeout, smart stay that keeps the screen on as long as you look at the device. We also have screen mode, adaptive display that adapts to the application, and to reading mode that makes everything slightly yellowish and less offensive to your eyes, so to say, and finally daydream. So these are all the options. Keep in mind we have a great screen here, particularly for the lower resolution. This wouldn't be a review if we didn't test the camera. The back shooter is a 5 megapixel one, and here we go. We got this little caster here. I'm going to try and place it properly. And once again, 5 megapixel shooter at the back with 4x digital zoom, 4x stops. We got 720p video capture, we got geotagging, autofocus, and the options include some effects to play with, a timer, and settings that are pretty much the usual ones. There's picture size here, there's video size, there's view mode, location tags, grid lines, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, we have the capture button, shortcut to the gallery, and modes that include auto, panorama, continuous shot, beauty face, sound and shot, sports. I have to say that the images aren't very crisp. It's exactly what you expect from a tablet. They're a bit blurry, but at least the capture is pretty fast. So this is it. You can see there's a slight bit of whitish hue on top of the image. It's good enough to be posted on Facebook in a rush if you really want to take a shot, but not more than that. And if you want a comparison with the 5 megapixel phones out there, well, I remember the Carbon Sparkle V phone. It's very cheap, it has a 5 megapixel camera, and it's clearly better than this camera. So you should be content with the random snapshot. Don't imagine you will take good quality shots. Here are some other shots I've taken around the house. Don't expect a very crisp and detailed gallery. This is actually a better shot. However, there is that little bit of blurriness which you can see around the edges of objects, showing you that this is a tablet after all and not a phone. You can also do a bit of editing once you're done taking shots. So if you take this robot here, press edit, you can rotate, crop, access the photo editor or create a collage. And the photo editor has its own options like adjustment, tone, effects and drawing. A lot of effects, making this a very cool image. Okay, we're done with the editing. It's time to talk performance. I'm sure you want to see that. Performance means temperature. In this case, we achieved 37.1 degrees Celsius after playing the game Riptide GP2 for 15 minutes, so there is no overheating here. As far as the web browser is concerned, let's see what's happening here. So we're in portrait mode right now. I'm going to go ahead and access Tablet-News.com. That loaded very fast, as you can see, or better said, reasonably fast. This is our website in portrait mode, fast pinch to zoom, our website in landscape. This is the virtual keyboard with a numeric row, pretty comfy experience. If that doesn't help, you can also go with the handwriting. My very poor handwriting that has been recognized to a hello. Okay, so that's the input. You can also use voice input or other methods, and that's the keyboard in portrait. Both of them very comfy, and even you have some arrow buttons here in case you need that. Okay, we proceed to the lesser used feature of the phone, if you ask me, the phone feature. Of course, you're not going to put the tablet to your ear, you're going to use a headset. We got speed dial here, we got video calls, and we got an okay quality of the talks, and once again you're going to use a headset. The signal is good, the quality is good, so no complaints here whatsoever. It's time for the benchmarks. This is a mid-range device. I had a very hard time finding tablets to compare this with, but I did find them. So I decided to compare the Samsung Galaxy Tab A 9.7, this one, to the LG G Pad 8.3, I know it's another diagonal, and the Asus MemoPad FHD10, I know it's a 2-year-old device. Anyways, in quadrant we scored 13,626 points, we beat the LG G Pad 8.3 by about 1,000 points, and we totally beat the Asus MemoPad FHD10 that scores only 5,600 points. In Antutu, 22,353 points with this model compared to the 21,000 of the LG G Pad 8.3 and the 17,700 of the Asus MemoPad FHD10. There's also an mark here in which we scored 56.5 frames per second, while the LG G Pad had 59.2 frames per second and the Asus MemoPad had 58.8 frames per second. Velamo is also here somewhere with a score of 2003 points in Chrome, not very good. The LG G Pad 8.3 had 2505 points, while the Asus MemoPad FHD10 had 1795 points, so at least we beat that one. 3D Mark had a surprisingly low score, in my book at least, and that score is 4,402 points. It's almost doubled by the LG G Pad 8.3 with 9,456, it's more than doubled, and the Asus MemoPad FHD10 had 5,774. We also did a Geekbench test. Sadly, we didn't have many comparison terms here, so let's find it. Geekbench 3 should be here somewhere. This is GFX, and here we go. We scored 471 in the single core test and 1433 in the multi-core test. All we know is that the LG G Pad 8.3 scored 1950 in this test, and we don't have other info about the other rivals. Next up, there's GFX, and in GFX we managed to score 294.5 frames in the 1080p T-Rex off-screen test, while the LG G Pad 8.3 had a huge score, 725, huge compared to this one. And finally the Asus MemoPad FHD10 had 413, so this one scored the lowest of them all. We also did a speed test that was reasonably good, 19 megapixel in download and 19 in upload via Wi-Fi. We don't have results for the other models, but they should be around 20 megapixel as well. Then we got browser mark, in case you're wondering how the browser behaves. So let's check this out. Browser mark, 1,202 points, reasonable I would say, but the other models both score around 2,500 they were based on older version of browser marks, so not entirely relevant. SunSpider, the lower the better, 1240 here, while the LG G-Pad 8.3 had 1100, and the Asus MemoPad FHD10 1200, so pretty close. Base Mark X also in the house, very low score, 4056 points, and that concludes our benchmark test. This battle took place between the Snapdragon 410 on this model, accompanied by 2GB of RAM, and the Snapdragon 600 of the LG G-Pad 8.3 plus 2GB of RAM, and the Intel Atom dual-core Z2560 of the Asus MemoPad FHD10, also with 2GB of RAM, so the battle was pretty close, unless you count the diagonals and how old those devices are. Overall, I would call these benchmarks unimpressive, especially for a device launched in 2015, but it's a mid-range device, keep that in mind, and considering even 2013 models beat it, you wouldn't hope that the games would run on it very long. Well, the games actually run on it very fine, and we don't have any lag here. The tablet is lag free, it has a pretty fluid interface, no problem with apps, no problem with games for now. If I can make a prediction, I'd say that the lag will appear about a year and a half from now. So I said it's an excellent gaming device, it can run Asphalt 8 like a charm, and it can also run Riptide GP2 that serves as a benchmark game. You can tweak its graphics to the top, activate 3D graphics, dynamic lighting, all sorts of cool textures, and test the game and the device. Once again, if it runs, let's say, Real Racing 3, Asphalt 8 and the latest FIFA, it should be good enough to run anything. Responds well to my commands. The water looks crisp. In spite of the low resolution, I'd say you won't be seeing any pixels here, and the water drops look great. Okay, so we're done with the gaming, everything is fine, everything is impressive. It's time to talk about software. Let's start off with the version of software, which is Android 5.0.2, which is Lollipop with TouchWiz on top. We obviously got material design here combined with the Samsung latest TouchWiz, and among others this involves a carousel for the multitasking. You can either swipe them to the side to close them or press close all and you'll be done with that. We also have a bunch of unique widgets that you can see right here. All of them are good looking, flat, and also pretty colorful. One of the most interesting is the Smart Manager widget. We also have the weather widget and a few more related to productivity apps. Anyway, keep that in mind. The Smart Manager widget is the most interesting. All the icons here are flat, they're not very glossy, they're still colorful, but they're discreetly colorful, not exaggerated. And now if you access the drop-down area, you'll see the quick settings in their usual horizontal list. We got the brightness slider, S-Finder and Quick Connect, notifications, updates, and even a card here and there from Google Now. Also in the drop-down area, there is a shortcut to the settings, which I will discuss later on. If you keep the recents button pressed, you will trigger the multi-window mode, which allows you to split the screen in two. So, for example, if you want to access the gallery at the same time with Chrome, you can do that, and you can also exchange content between them by pressing this button here, and then you can drag content if you want to from here to here. However, this app does not support content, so anyway, if I open an email tab here and drag content to there, that would be actually useful. So that's the multi-window mode. In case you want to see it again, let's try it this time with, let's say, Chrome and Gmail, prepping a brand new email and trying to check it out in this landscape mode. So let's try this again. Transfer the text, put it here. And that worked. So that's pretty much it. That's what multi-window mode can do, among others, and it also saved my message in a draft. Okay, I promised to show you the settings. Don't expect anything fancy here. We got connectivity options, airplane mode, mobile hotspot and stuff, data usage, more connection, sound and notification, display, motions and gestures like mute, to placing your hand on the screen for the mute, and palm swipe to capture, which is something we knew from a while back, applications, wallpaper, that takes me straight there, lock screen and security, privacy, we got a private mode if you want that, accessibility, accounts, backup and reset, language and input, battery, storage, accessories like the cover, date and time, and about device. So that's pretty much it. Now, as far as the pre-installed applications go, I'm very happy to let you know that there's no bloatware here, luckily. Okay, so let's start off with phone, contacts, messages, internet and gallery. Then we got camera, music, video and calculator, clock, my files, which is a file manager. We also got memo, which, as the name says, is a quick memo taking application that can include image, voice and tasks. And then we got a smart manager, probably one of the most useful apps pre-installed. It manages the battery, cleans up your storage and scans for unnecessary data, also handles your device security with Knox included, and even handles your RAM consumption. We got 2 GB here, but they ran out pretty fast. Then we got the S Planner with material design, as you can see, to this floating little plus button, and your basic calendar that looks hot. We got email, we got site sync. This site sync feature allows you to mirror your device on another device. As you can see here, you can mirror the phone to a laptop, you can mirror this tablet to a laptop, and so forth. Okay, then we got Galaxy Apps. That's basically the app store from Samsung with a few interesting software here and there. And then Chrome, we've also got Maps, Google Maps, always updating. Okay. Scanning for us, found us reasonably fast. Change the orientation, do a little bit of satellite viewing, and you should be all set with your mapping needs. Further, we got Play Store, YouTube, the Google Suite that includes the Play Suite, Drive, Photos, and Newsstand plus Gmail, and finally the mother load, so to say, or the selling point, the Microsoft apps. We got Skype, we got OneDrive, and we got the Office package. Word is here. And be patient with them, they take a bit of while to open up, but once they do, they're very useful. You can take notes, you can create brochures, you can do a research paper for school, and you can sync them to the cloud via OneDrive and get them on the PC. So I have this paper here, I'm ready to subject it to a bit of editing and then turn it in at the school. This is how you select the text, this is how you input, this is how you customize the text with another color or two, change the font, and also apply a bit of underline, italic, bold, insert stuff, change the layout, review, view, and do all of the orientation and editing things you want to do. Of course, we also have Excel. If you feel the need to work with cells, tables, make a list, pie charts, history, and stuff like that. You have to be patient once again when working with these apps. They take a bit to open, but then they're very useful and have pretty much the bulk of the options you can find on your desktop. And obviously there's also PowerPoint, as I said before. Okay, I know that it requires you to go to landscape mode. Okay. You're also offered the option to sync with Dropbox in case you're wondering, and you can create a presentation like this. This one is probably the slowest to load because it has the biggest amount of data to load up. You can insert stuff, change transition, slideshow and all that. Once again, you can turn this mid-range device into a productivity device if you want to. Overall, I would call the tablet comfy and intuitive. There is not much bloatware on board, and I forgot to show you something, which is the Flipboard dedicated home screen, which is optional. If you want to eliminate it, you can. It allows you to keep up with the news. You enter an article like that. You can also share it, and that's pretty much Flipboard in a nutshell. Okay, it's time for the verdict. This is the Samsung Galaxy Tab A 9.7-inch LTE version, and on the Pro side, we got a comfy and light experience. The tablet doesn't weigh very much. There's not much bloatware going on here. We got a bright screen that looks better than its resolution will make it seem. We got loudspeakers, we got phone calling and LTE, we got no lag. It can run any game on the market, and it has productivity apps from Microsoft. On the con side, I would say that the facade is a fingerprint magnet. The charging takes 4 hours, which may be a bit long for people, and in spite of the good CPU, I give it a year before it starts lagging. Of course, I'm pessimistic, but I expect that to happen at some point. Other than that, People may not like the 4:3 aspect ratio format we got here, and the back camera is rather weak, but it's a tablet, so you shouldn't take that into account. So I'm going to go ahead and give it an 8.3 out of 10 for the design, and also I'm going to give it a 9 for the hardware, and finally a 9.8 out of 10 for the OS and UI, because the software is really good and there's nothing to object here. The final grade is 9.03 for the Samsung Galaxy Tab A 9.7 inch version with LTE, and considering the price tag and considering the specs, I would say this grade is quite fine. You got productivity, you got a comfy format, you can play games, watch video, you have an exceptional battery, with the battery probably being its selling point, and the grade is 9.03 out of 10 from Tablet-News.com. It's a very solid mid-range tablet that doesn't compromise very much, and when you compromise it, it hides it very well. So the final grade 9.03 from Tablet-News.com. Bye bye.